We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's it been going there, James? I've been sick too. I've been pretty sick as well. I'm just pulling in some of the newer stuff I just got recently.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we have something really special for you. New information has been released on the upcoming changes for Season 10. This is absolutely
Come on, stop
huge.
it. Sorry, I'm a huge Pro Guides fan. I watch Pro Guides every day, so. If you do it, make sure you do it in the streams section. Or actually, you know what? I'm just gonna copy and paste what you put. Let me go ahead and plug it. I'll do it in the Raycast one. There we go. All right, perfect. Just easier because I don't think you have access to that. But if you wanted to post it in the self promotion one as well, the personal promotion under the community, you can also post it in there if you want. 2 times in the same server though, I don't really see it being needed. Especially since I've already posted it as a... Okay. I mean, you can also do it on... There we go. Okay, sorry, I'm just pulling this stuff in. You know, I normally lag like hell if I have the stream playing, and I just realized that I had the stream playing in the background. And it's normally, like, really, really bad. By the way, how is the music compared to my voice? Is it, like, too low? Is it too high? That's not what I wanted to do. I accidentally did that. Oh, should I turn the music up a little bit then? Like about there? Okay, perfect. Alright, so now for some of the bigger stuff. I got some really, really awesome assets that, like, you know what? I'll go ahead and start up my screen. You guys can see. I don't care. All right, you guys can see my screen, correct? Let me pull up Restream chat. Oh, that's not gonna work. I just realized this. I'll almost guarantee if I use that chat box, yeah, it literally, oh no, actually, Team Twitch. Yeah, but it's not source. Chatter. Yeah, that's not letting me choose what one I want. We'll talk about that one. I don't know if you want me to use that one or not. We want the dynamic bone for sure. That's not quite what I want. That's what I want. Sorry, I'm just getting the chat window set up here. Just give me 1 second. Probably should have done this before, but, you know. There we go. That should hopefully allow you guys to see chat. Hello, hello, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Import this guy. Sorry, I'm just getting some stuff imported here. That's going to help us out a whole lot in this project specifically, and obviously in other projects as well. The big ones are coming up, though. These are smaller. We got some pretty large ones coming up soon. This one's quite large, but it has all of the sound effects we need for medieval combat. So how about this? Perfect, there we go. Gonna put that down in the corner for now. You guys ever eat these Planters cheese balls? They're amazing. Sorry about the wait, guys. We're just waiting for these. We're just waiting for the sound effects to come in. I find that a large part of the experience of combat is like, you know, the impact, like boom, you know, and then you like, you feel it because it's like the camera shakes a little bit, you know. The camera shakes a little bit. You've got that, you know, hard thump. Ow, that actually kind of hurt because my hands are cold. But you know. Did Unity freeze? Like, what the heck? There it goes. It did freeze up completely for a second there. I need to set up a sound player system too. This gives me a chance to talk about this, by the way. For those of you who do not know, the reason that I have been away for so long and haven't been working on this is not that I don't want to work on this, because I certainly do want to get this going and up and running. But the reason that I have been gone are three big reasons. Reason one: my wife is a high risk pregnancy, and she had some episodes where she's almost literally passed out coming up the stairs, which is not good. So I've been kind of in and out of the hospital with her. Number two has been work related. I've just had a crap ton of work that I've had to do as of late. Mostly for my day job, but like, you know, I've had to make some extra money on the side as well, for financial reasons. And then the last one has been health issues between me, my wife, and my father. So that has, you know, kind of really impacted development on this particular project. But we are getting back into development now. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to move this forward and get it to a more playable state pretty soon. Chances are, sometime in March of 2020, I will be taking probably a month or two off again, because that's when my son is born, and that'll just give me time to kind of learn to be a dad and help my wife out, because she's going to be recovering from giving birth, obviously. So, you know. But, you know, kind of as everything starts settling back in, we'll, you know, I'll be around more and be able to kind of finish more things up. My goal, though, obviously, is to have something playable. Like, I don't know how much of playable. That kind of really depends on, you know, we really need to, you know, we really need a level designer to come in here and look at these levels and put things together. I bought a pack that kind of helps me put levels together a little bit easier, but, you know, at the end of the day, like, we definitely still need a level designer to come in and just go, this is where things should go, this is where mobs are going to spawn, you know, that sort of thing. And stuff like that, so I think if we had that, and then kind of, we really need a balanced team as well. So a balanced team, a level designer, and probably an animator or a modeler. We could really round the team out and have this done a lot quicker. So, you know, it is what it is, but we're definitely getting there. Oh, this is done. Sweet. I don't know what I want to bring in, though, is the thing. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, that was really strange. I don't know, honestly, what happened with that. He was kind of, like, just all in. He was excited about it. And then all of a sudden, he was just like, poof! It was like, what happened? Like, he deleted his account and everything. It was weird. So what I'm pulling in now, I actually want to take a look at this, because I want to see what this does, because if this works the way that I think it's going to work, then we'll be able to spawn our towns really, really simply. So let me close this guy up a little bit. Revision 3. We're also going to be getting rid of Skymaster and pulling in a completely new project, or a completely new one that I bought. Procedural area spawner. This is what I'm looking for. So procedural areas. Close that for now. So we just pulled in a whole crap ton of stuff, so it could be just taking it, you know, it'll take some time to. Why is this? There we go. So that gives me the... Now I can actually zoom in and look at things without having crazy view distances. Okay, so... Okay, so this is a procedural bookshelf. This is supposed to... this is supposed to spawn things in this. They're supposed to spawn these books in these areas. It's just not working. Why is it not working? Like, these are the possible objects. It's supposed to spawn them in there, but it's not doing that. Why is it not spawning? Because this could help out a lot with spawning procedural areas and also doing things like procedural bookshelves and stuff like that. So, like, that would help out a whole lot. But, like, I'm really confused as to why these areas aren't spawning. Because, like, we're online. Like, it's, you know... It's open. Let me take a look at this real quick. Press G. Oh, because I'm not in the game window. Okay. Now that makes more sense. I was like, why is this thing not working? That's actually pretty freaking cool. So we can clear it and regenerate it. Alright, so let's look at the area demo now. Now that we know. Now that's actually pretty freaking cool. How many tries is this supposed to... I'm curious though. Do you always have to press G to do it? Like, this would be really helpful. Like, we can define districts. Let me see if I can draw out what I'm trying to say here. Come here, little drawing tablet. I am. I'm actually going to talk through that too. Alright, perfect. Okay. So here's my plan. There, okay. Alright. So here's my plan in terms of doing our level design currently. None of us want to sit down and place a shit ton of none of us want to like sit down and place a shit ton of like buildings and stuff. So my thought is, if we use that thing, and let's say this is the entirety of Haventown, right? We can have different districts. So for instance, like, this is the military district. This is the market district. And then this is the living district, right? Like the housing district. Then what we can do is we have all these little houses. Right? So we define the bigger areas and we'll say these two are only for the military district. These two, and then we'll say this one can also go to the market district. And then these two can go for the living district, right? But then these two can also be used in the living or the marketing district. And then the system will automatically define. The system will automatically like spawn them all in a certain area, which I think will be a lot more helpful. Or I can do a grid system where it'll literally lay out a grid, you know, and we can have it randomly spawn objects within that grid. Either way is fine. It's not that I don't like the layout you did. It's that this map is considerably bigger than the one that you had built previously. Does that make sense? I mean, in case you don't remember how big this map is, now keep in mind, this is literally only loading. So it finally switched to the starter island, which means it's loaded the data. Now it's rendering the thing. So this map is freaking colossal. Just the area that we spawn in is there. Your character is this big. So think about this area compared to how big your character is. You feel me? You wanna go in and place all those by hand? My thought is we do this. This is what I want. So here's my thought of how we do this. You can tell me if you agree with it or not. I'm going to use white because it's just will show up better. So this will be the bounds of Haventown. Just doing a little cleanup here so it makes more sense. Correct. So then we define... Yeah, Haventown's on the other side of the map. You're right, and my brain's not working. Anyway. So my thing is, I'm thinking... This here will be the military district. So I'm going to draw... a little sword. Right? So then I'm going to go... We'll go this here will be the market district. And we'll do that. I'll do like a little basket for like the right, and then it's, you know, a little wicker basket, right? And then here would be the living district, and I'll mark that with a house. It's a crappy house, but don't at me, bro. Okay, and then I'll do a little thing up here so it looks like a house. Okay. So don't at me, bro. I know it's a terrible looking house. So then we'll have little roads. I'm going to mark those off in yellow. So your road will come in and kind of go all the way back, and then we'll have little roads that obviously like branch off, right? Then these will be a little bit more, because living districts tend to be like in a grid. And then military districts also tend to be more grid-like. And then we'll have little roads that like come off of these as well. So we'll build our paths like that. And then these. This. The thing is, isn't the town completely overrun? Like, there's not people there anymore, at least according to the lore. The way it's written. Let's see. So it says, the humans were overwhelmed by the lush landscape and the plethora of wild creatures in the Haven Valley. Some scarcely thought they'd ever see the light of day again after being drove into the caves for safety, although some mysterious door at the end is all full of resources, blah, 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 blah. And then it says that they go into the camp, and it is highly dangerous to leave the camp. So the point is, if it's in the past, right, then our city is going to be in ruin. It hasn't been upkept, right? And there's not going to be anybody there. So the reason that I'm doing things the way that I am, the reason that I have this set up the way that I do, is because they are kind of rebuilding their town here. Like, yes, it's a camp right now, but eventually, later on in the storyline, it would become a city, right? Not that we ever have to make it a city in game, but, you know, with the lore, you know, that's where they're headed. They're kind of building this. Unless, of course, the main quest would be to return people to the town on the other side of the island. Like, am I making sense, or I'm... Like, I'm happy to build build things the way that they need to be, but at the same time, I'm trying to make sure that everything makes sense. Besides, we want our first town to be kind of large. Like, we want them to be able to have, areas where they can shop and, like areas, because they're going to need to defend people, Because they don't know if at any point in time they could be attacked. Like, they don't, every once in a while, like, these people are living in fear, right? So we got this door over here, and, they don't know, if someday the things that they're running from are going to, reappear. They don't know, they don't know if they're truly safe or not. You know what I mean? So obviously they're going to have a military. And then, they have all of this lush, and obviously they need to go out because they need to get food, they need to get all kinds of things, right? So it's in the lore specifically says that it's dangerous to leave the camp. And I'm agreeing with you. So my whole point here is that they would have an established... Okay, so you're saying they've already liberated the island, is what you're saying. Okay. I still think that this is a good idea. And I'll explain why. A lot of people, like, this is where they were born. You know what I mean? Like, I'm imagining that, this era probably lasted, somewhere probably about 100 years. They were trapped in the caves. And it doesn't specifically say how long, but it would make sense if it was about 100 years. Some scarcely thought they'd ever see the light of day again. That's years, right? So they would have... I'd imagine so, but there's probably not that many people. And so here's my thought. Let me do this. I'm thinking any of the people who originally stayed there are not there anymore. They're long dead. I mean, it's been 100 years, or there and thereabouts of 100 years. Are we sure there's lore in here? So once peaceful village of Tiro had housed much more until the dark forest souls. This hardly shade was like to where I stayed entrenched through his house. I mean, everything that's written kind of contradicts what you're saying. Because, like, this makes it seem like you don't want to go to Tiroa Town, and like it's now a mercenary den, basically. It's now a den of people who like just don't like outsiders, you know. I'm trying. Let's see if I can come up with a bit better of a current state of things for the game itself. So let me go here. So this is the map as a whole. And yes, it's like, it looks small from way up here, but believe me, it is not. Well, I'm going to actually maximize this so that we have a bigger picture to work with. So let's delete these layers, paste in our own. All right. So, we're going to mark off the areas in green. So we have the forest. Oops. We'll create another layer. So we have the forest here. And this is going to be quite a large forest. The swamp is going to be around here, correct? And then we have the docks, of course. Out to, out here. And then we have Tiroa Town here. The graveyard is around here. This is the lower dock area. So this is the Forest of Sanctity, so we'll call that Forest of Sanctity. Tiroa Town, TT. The lower docks. The docks, the swamp. Yeah, this is the Highlands too. Which that kind of looks like XX. You know what? It's fine. We get the point. This is the graveyard. And then our door to the caves are here. And then obviously out of the caves is here. You're right. This is the big hole that they go in. Like that's the right, and then the doors are here. And then this is the Haven Camp. So, Haven Camp. So, and I know we're a little off base here. It's okay. We need to work this stuff out anyway. So these are our caves. Like we're just gonna. These are our caves. Right, and Haven Valley is just outside. You're correct there. So Haven Valley. That kind of looks like 2 Valley or 2V. So HV. There we go. So we have. This is the. I probably should remove some of these here for the Highlands. Okay. 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 So here's my thought. Haven Camp should be a little bit bigger. So we're going to mark this off. There's the sword. There's our basket. And here is our houses. And here's my thoughts, and here's why I'm doing this. I'm going to mark our paths off this way. So you go out, over, and in this way. And then once you're in the cave, it obviously goes this way into Taro Town. It splits off into the lower docks, into the graveyard. The lower docks go down into the swamp, and then these go out to the docks themselves. Now, if I'm not mistaken, our player's starting point is actually here, correct? Down by the docks. At the Haven Camp. Okay, because that's not what we had at first. But that's okay. We'll spawn in at Haven Camp, probably in a military place, because obviously the player is going to be a militant at first. I mean, are they born at the Haven Camp? Because we were saying that they came to this world, like, or they came to this island. Okay. Perfect. So now you have a path into the Highlands, and then as you get into there, it's going to disappear because it's a forest, right? We don't have any actual paths. I mean, we can create paths, just nothing that's a natural path, basically. All right. So here's my thoughts. We're going to want players to start. So I'm actually thinking about making the Haven Camp smaller, like here. And cutting this bit off. And the reason is because we're going to want some mobs on the outside. Round the outside. So we're gonna want some mobs on the outside of the camp, just to give the player something to kill. So gameplay wise, I'm thinking we start at the camp. You have a place to buy your swords, or a place to do quests and train and stuff like that, and that'll be the military area. And then a place to buy potions and lower level equipment and stuff like that. And then a living area, which all it really does is just you have like an inn there and some buildings, just to make it look like the place is actually lived in, like just to make it seem like, hey, this is a real place and not just something we plopped here for player agency, right? So we want to make the town, the camp, seem a little lived in. So we want to give them some low-level mobs. So we're gonna put LV1 here, in this area, all around in this area, just all around in there. Yes, exactly. And then, you know, we have all of this blank area we can do stuff with too. So I think we'll have like level 2 mobs will be over here, level 3, level 4, and then level 5 would be here, right? Because right now, the Haven Valley is actually kind of small. We have all this empty space. So what we could actually do is we could move Haven Valley, or the Haven Camp, back here a little bit more. And then have all of this open space. Which I'm happy to do. I mean, yeah, okay, so I think if we move the Haven Camp, and I'm with you on this one for sure. So if we move the Haven Camp back here, so Haven Camp, right? So now Haven Camp is back here. So I'm just going to fill that in so it makes more sense. And then I'm going to take a bigger brush here and remove this area. Yeah, no, I get the valley part. This is going to be a little flipped. And I think that's okay. Okay. So essentially, this is going to be a little flipped. So the smaller area, I'm going to bring this over. The smaller area here is actually going to be over here. So we're going to flip that a little bit, and I think that's fine. It makes more sense to have the smaller area near the mountain, because the mountain is taking that up. So this smaller area will be here, which I think is fine. We can make it fit a little bit more into your spec if we want to do something like this, where it has like an outer lying like gate wall, basically, where our gate is here, and then you have some smaller things in here, and I think that's fine because like that kind of makes it seem more interesting. So you'll have kind of like an inner gate, outer gate thing where your inner gate's here, and then your outer gate is here. So bam, 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 bam. So you have two separate gates. That way we have a smaller area near the base. We have a smaller area near the base that is kind of safe for the player to go and screw around in early, at the onset of the game. And then as they go outside, then we have this bigger area like you have. And then another small area at the other side of the valley, at the other side of the river. Or we can cut out this wall here completely, if that's what you want. I'm fine with it either way. So if you don't want this here, we can just remove that and just have the single thing here. So we would just have walls here and then a wall here. And then, kind of wall here. And we wouldn't need a wall here because of this little mountain / hill that's here. What are your thoughts? So let me remove these level things here. Like, this does not look lived in, though. That's the point. Like, I don't mind if we have, like, tents and stuff like that, but, like, it just doesn't look lived in. It doesn't look like people have settled there for any amount of time at all, more than, like, a couple days, maybe a year. It looks like one of those pop-up, like one of those military pop-up cities, where they just kind of, like, pop up a city and then completely tear it down and move it somewhere else when they go to a different area.
This video is being brought to you by
so I'd like to have it a little bit bigger, and have a little bit more stuff in it, but like, as per the layout, I'm fine with it because it fits my it fits my idea, right? Where we have the housing back here. These look more like the military tents, and then we could have like some stalls set up there for the player to buy stuff in. So I mean, it kind of fits my layout. I mean, these look, like I said, these look like living areas. I mean, of course these in particular look like words. They look like common living areas. Like many people live here rather than just like one family. And then we have a market area and then the military area. So I mean, it kind of fits with what I've been saying. So I like having the camp here. This here makes a lot of sense. So we would have one area back here, and I think it would be kind of cool maybe to have like a small boss here, like a small raid boss. That kind of like is your yeah, so like in this area here, and we'll mark it in red just so it's like right there. Have like a small raid boss. Like a higher level person could do it by themselves, but a smaller team would require more people. Well, I mean, it's not like, I mean, look at how big this map is. It's not like we couldn't have several, you know? Because we could have another boss here and another boss here. And that kind of rounds it out. So you have 3 raid bosses in this area. Because I'm assuming just how big this map is, we're probably going to want to have several bosses. We might even want to do a 4th one, like in the caves somewhere. I have not, actually. Let's see. Are they in here? The monster list. 1 through 10. Queen bee. We need to have a someone who's good at balance come in and work on this. And the reason I say this is because a level 10 big boss, like, this is a huge map, which means they're going to be doing a lot of quests on it. They're going to do a lot of stuff, which basically means your leveling, like, your level is going to be so slow. Like, how quickly you level is going to be astronomically slow. Which is gonna really frustrate players, because like that sense of accomplishment, that sense of doing things, that's really gonna upset the players. We definitely need somebody to kind of balance that out. And I don't see oh, Forest of Fairies, that was the one. I screwed that the name up. But like, we need to give the player more levels. Like, there's no reason the player can't be level 30 by the time they leave the starter island, just with how big it is. I'm trying to think. What if we give players, instead of straight levels, what if we give players Yeah, I think that would be interesting, actually. What if we gave them sub-levels? So, you can be level 1. I'm trying to think how to explain this without making it sound ridiculous. So you could be level 1, but that is the they call it the Western RPG leveling. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm getting at. So let's do it this way. I had my pen the wrong way. Make it a little lighter here. That needs to be a lot lighter, actually. Am I losing my freaking mind here? So you got your player. And then you have your level bar. So I think instead of having XP level you in terms of your overall level, you'll have all of these little substats, right? And then as these fill up and reach the end, every time you level it up, you'll gain a little bit of EXP towards your level. Then I think we can definitely dig that where we don't have because we want the player to continue playing, right? We don't want them to be like, well, I'm not gaining any levels, right? I'm not gaining anything. I'm not doing anything. You know, they're already 2 hours into the game and haven't even reached level 2 yet, you know? You know, instead, if they reach, 5 and 3 stats, they'll hit level 2. Diablo did that too with the Paragon points, where you got like points to put into your stats if you leveled past your max level. And that's definitely cool. I don't know if that's really going to work with an MMO as well as we would hope it would, but we can always give it a try and see what happens. But I think there's no reason we can't have multiple bosses on this map. I mean, isn't the game world supposed to be huge? Like, this map alone takes 45 minutes to do a complete circle around. So if you were to do a complete circle around, if you were to go from here, like this, it takes 45 minutes to an hour. At regular running speeds. You know, so, and if this is the smaller of the maps, then, you know, huge. So there's no reason we couldn't have multiple bosses, multiple raid bosses in an area. I would probably remove this one, because it wouldn't make sense to have him there, especially with the lore. But probably one in the graveyard would also probably fill that slot pretty well. Extra work on us or the player? I mean, the whole point is that the game is going to be evolving. I mean, there's no reason that we can't add and remove things later. You know, I mean, that's the whole point of an online game. People want a big, expansive game, you know? Anyway, I think it's fine. I mean, so I think we pretty much worked things out. So I think we're pretty happy with the state of the world now. You know, I think obviously there was some frustration between both you and I in terms of how the map was laid out. And in terms of how the lore and the current state of that map was. But I think we worked through that, obviously. And I think it's in a good spot now. You know, I think it's in a much better place than it was. So, anyway. So, let's scrap this stuff. And I don't know why I put that away, because we were going to talk about the animations. So, the way the game works is obviously this is a networked game. And because I cannot stand having white backgrounds. We're gonna do more blackboard feel. Alright, so then, yeah, that feels like chalk. Perfect. Actually, I could do even more like chalk. Yeah, okay. So, we have our server and we have our client, right? In between those two exists the player state. That is an interesting... So we have the player state. this holds everything from the player's HP, MP, their, attack. Like, it holds everything, right? Everything that has to do with the player is held in the player state. It even erases like Rail Chalk. I like that a lot. I know it's a little hard to read though. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna actually decrease the size. Here. Now when I do things like HP, yeah, it's a lot easier to read. It's an HP like that. Alright. So the server is going to hold its own copy of the state, and the client is going to hold its own copy of the state. And the player or the server state is going to request a hash of the state of the client. And so when the client sends its state, it's going to send a hash like, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll have like a $sign and another $sign. And then at the end it'll have like a .0 or something. And there'll be dots in between and commas. And anyway, it's a hash, basically. It's a representation of what this currently looks like. In a singular format, in a format that is like, a whole, basically, as a single string. And then the server will then read that state, hash its own state, and check it in between the two. And then the server does a bunch of calculations and knows what state or what changes to this state have occurred versus this state. So then the server then sends only the data that has been changed to the client. Which then the client reads and does the things that we tell it to with it, right? So let's make our brush a bit bigger, and we will erase that. So now that we understand how the state system in the game works, let's talk about which I accidentally deleted the state here. Let's talk about how we're going to work on the animation system. So currently we're using Mechanim. So if we look at our system here, if we look at the current systems we're using, if we look at the player object here, we have an animator and an animator controller. So I'm going to open that controller up and go to our animator. We see we have this big web of crap and all of these different parameters and everything, and it's just a giant pain in the buttocks. This is great for like a single player game, but as we start getting into more complex situations, these layers, which are already complex to begin with, are just going to get more and more complex. And like I said, while mech anim is really cool, I think we're kind of limited in the fact that, like, you know, this is going to get super complex. How big are the lag spikes? Because according to... Okay. Because according to this... Whoops. I don't think it's me, and I'll explain why in a second here. If we look at my performance tab, we're only using 20% of my CPU. We're running at a steady 60 frames per second, and we've only dropped 209 frames, which is 0.1% of frames throughout the entire stream. And we're streaming at 2,674 kilobits a second. This, you know, around 2,600 kilobytes a second, 2006 and 2,700 kilobits per second. So I don't think it's my end. But anyway, so as these get bigger, like as these get, as we need to add more animations to this is just going to get freaking ridiculous. I'm not a big fan of the mech anim, framework. So what I grabbed, though, where is it? Yeah, I'm not saying it was you either. I think it's probably actually Twitch. Because, I mean, let's also look at my internet. My ping is very low, and I'm running 350 megabytes, 350 megabytes, somewhere around in there, for downloads. Yeah, so 360 megs down, somewhere around 20 megabytes up. So I don't, yeah, I'm willing to bet it's not me, because my internet's running pretty good. So, I don't think it's me. YouTube seems to have issues. DirecTV's not having many, or DirecTV's having a big issue. ESPN's having a big issue. Overwatch, not anymore. Well, that's not what I want. Steam's having some issues, or it was having some issues yesterday. Nope, Steam's having issues today. Cablevision is having issues. Yeah, so I don't think it's me. I think honestly, it's got to be Twitch having some weirdness. Anyway, so like I was saying, the animation system as the game gets more complex and as we need to add more things, it's going to become more and more of a pain in the butt to work with this mech anim system. So, and the mech anim system would work pretty decently with the state system, if it just wasn't so complex and if we didn't have to add a bunch of crap to it all the time, and it wouldn't, just become a huge deal. I actually really like the look of this a lot. Anyway, so the way that we're going to do it now is when the client reads the state, it's going to take a look at a few things. So the first thing it's going to look at is your current player's disposition, right? So, i.e., is the player dead? If it is, then we're just going to play the dead animation. And to prevent the dead animation from playing over and over again on that state, we're going to have another one called... Oops, I hit the wrong button. So, is the player newly dead? If they are, then we're going to play the dying animation. If they are dead, then we're going to play the dead animation. So the newly dead animation is going to be true one time. And that'll be anywhere near so that'll be basically well, actually what we could do, no, I think this is fine. So the newly dead will be active only once. Once it's active, then we basically just say, are we in the middle of the dying animation? No? Okay, cool. Are we not in the middle of the dying animation? Okay, well then let's start the dead animation, which is basically just laying on the ground, right? So those are the first two checks we gotta do. Then the next thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do our movement detection. So, where is the player moving and how fast? That will decide whether we're playing the walk animation or the run animation. Then we also need to tell what our rotation is. And that will tell us whether or not we are walking or we are strafing. So, are we walking or running? Or are we walking or strafing? So that is the secondary portion of our animation. Secondly, are we attacking? This will determine whether or not we're playing an attack animation. Are we charging? Basically, are we charging up a spell? Then we show the charge animation. So you see, our state is going to hold a whole crap ton of information about our player, and a whole crap ton of information about how our player is going to be moving in our game world. So that is what we need to set up. So first off, what do you mean, how are they animated? Oh, you mean how am I going to play the animations? We're going to use a system that I purchased recently for this project and several others that I'm working on of my own, called Animancer. So if we look at Animancer, essentially, there we go. You see that Animancer just plays animations. Like, it will do all kinds of stuff. Like, you can play it. You can, get when an Animancer state has ended. You could do all kinds of really crazy stuff with the Animancer system. This is an inspector of what's currently playing. This is how you can define your own data structures. You can layer animations and do blending. It handles all kinds of IK. It has a crap ton of examples and stuff like that. So, this is normally how it works. You animate it, export it, and then with Mac Anim you have to create animator controllers. You have to go into the script and then go up, until you finally figure out what you're doing. With Animancer, you just control your logic through a single script, and you're good to go. So that's how we're going to be animating our players. We are going to have no animation syncing, unless the animation has to be synced, which there are going to be very little, if any, animations that actually need to be synchronized between clients. So we're not going to be using any syncing. And the reason is because the system is so fast that by the time I send out a request to attack, it's going to hit both players at nearly the same time, which means there's no point in doing animation syncing at that point, because we both have seen the animation command so quickly that it really doesn't matter. Am I making sense? So I think we're good there. We'll pull Doozy UI in later. That is just a UI animation and all kinds of stuff helper. I'm not worried about that just yet. Didn't I update this? I feel like every time I update this stupid thing, it's got another update every time I go in there, which I think is bugged, because I haven't. It says the last time it was updated is November 28th, 2018. I'm going to update. You know what? Let's see what all packages need update. Yeah, let's see what all packages need updates. Because there may be several packages we're using in here that need updates. Update available. Node canvas. SkyMaster. Flow canvas. also needs an update. Infinigrass, which I haven't used on this project yet, but I will be. The Hierarchy Pro, Umotion Pro is going to be great for us. This motion matching stuff is going to be pretty awesome too, if I get a chance to actually put that in. I don't really know if it's going to need it though, especially with how many players we have walking around all at the same time. Might lag lower, like computers that have a lower specs. And then obviously I had to talk with James. Eventually we're going to be completely redoing our the look of the game, because we want it to work on mobile. So we're going to have a huge we just had a huge talk about that and what we need to do to do that. So we're going to be doing that eventually here pretty soon. Okay. So I'm just updating the packages that we actually need and that we're using. So that should hopefully fix some of the issues with this over here. We do need that mobile money. It's also great to have people, to be able to just pop in on your phone as well, because if I'm on the go, I'm not always going to be able to or in bed, correct, on the toilet, why can't I do a raid while I'm on the toilet? Oh man, I ate some instead of sleeping, exactly, yeah. What if we're, why can't I do a raid if, oh, that did fix it, perfect. Why can't I take place in the raid just because, I ate a bad taco or something? I'm not going to update anything else because these are huge packages. This one's not, that one's actually not. But we're not using any of those in here. We may end up using this character motion package though, for sure. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to update that because I probably will pull that in. Speaking of bed, how late are you going to be up, James? Well, aren't you just the party pooper? Okay, so while we're waiting for that, let's update our schema. So this is our schema. We have an animation state, which is here. Which right now is basically is moving and the direction. Which is fine. But it's not quite what we're looking for it right now. So actually, no, that is exactly what we want. We need to add another thing to this, though, which is basically look direction number equals 0, and then at type number. So this basically just gives us whether or not we're moving, what direction we're moving in our look direction. And I think even better than direction as a number, we have direction as a vector 3. So we're not moving in any direction right now. I don't know what I want to do exactly with this look direction, but I think we'll make it a vector 3 as well. So now we have whether or not we're moving, our direction, and our look direction. And I don't think we actually need whether or not we're moving. And the reason is because we're actually going to be storing our velocity in our direction. So this is actually, you know what, let me comment this too so that we know. This is our current velocity. Not a singular direction. So one on Z means we are moving forward at full speed. Negative 1 on Z means we are moving backwards at full speed. Okay. So just kind of explaining what we're doing there. This is the direction of our current camera rotation, so know what animation. Oh, actually, we don't even need the rotation because we already have the rotation here. So it's our transform, our entity transform. So if we look at our entity transform, we actually have a rotation. So basically, if our rotation is facing forward, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what we need. So let's look at our animation state again. Then we're gonna want at type boolean newly dead. Boolean equals false. At type boolean dead. Boolean false. Because obviously everybody's going to spawn, right? Because we want it, once they've played their animation, to continue to play the dead animation. And I think we're fine, actually. Because both of these will be true immediately. And then we'll wait so many seconds to make that false. Or, yeah, so many seconds to make that false. Okay, so what else do we need on here now is our attacking stuff. So at type boolean attack boolean equals false. At type boolean using ability boolean equals false. At type let's do an int 32 using used ability number equals new. Which basically means we are not using an ability currently. Yes, actually, I did not realize that I wasn't following until I looked up and was like, wait, I'm not following? And then I just hit the follow button. So now we've used... Now we know whether or not we're normal attacking, we're using an ability, or we've used an ability. So we'll have stunned. Boolean is false. At type. We're gonna put numbered in quotes, because that basically means, did you use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or F1, F2, F3, 4, whatever. We're gonna put the, they should probably be allowed to bind them to whatever, right? The ID of the ability being used. Just so we know what just so we know what these freaking states do, because there's a ton of things that these could be like. This is set for 3 seconds, set to true for 3 seconds after a player's death, so that players around that player can see the death. This is set to true when a player dies, and if newly dead is set to true, will not play animation until newly dead is set. Okay, so now that we have quite a few of those, I think, jumping can you think of any other animation states currently for this thing? This is our current movement velocity. This is whether or not we're newly dead, whether or not we're dead, whether or not we're jumping, whether or not we're falling, our normal attack, whether or not we're using an ability, whether or not we've used an ability, whether or not we're stunned. So we have a couple other things too, like whether or not we can move or not. But those are going to be in the room. Let's just go ahead and generate our schema. So now our animation state has a crap ton of new stuff in it. Alright, so Cadalion server, there we go. That's a build. Should be under projects. Cadalion Online. Oops. Assets. Game. Net. Scripts. Networking. Schema. Client schema. Alright. We'll start that up and let it start building. And now we have a couple things we got to do to the map room. So this is whether or not we're going to allow movement. And we have a shit ton more work to do to this thing here. Especially this update animation system. Okay. Current HP is a Boolean? What? Am I stupid? I might be stupid. Current HP is a number. Oh, because I put "not" in front of it like a fool. Right. So if our current HP is greater than 0, and actually we don't need that in our animation state now that I'm realizing this, because that's a state. That's our current character's disposition. I have a better system for doing that, but as long as our current HP is greater than 0, then we're going to Take your time. Instead of allow movement, we'll call this that should be fine to allow movement. There shouldn't need any data. Boom. Okay. There is a lot more that needs done there. So we're gonna leave that alone for now. Alright, so that parses the integer. Also, yes, welcome everybody. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm just trying to figure out what changes I need to make to this server to make it run the way that I want it to. I think direction is fine for now. Let me take a look at the schema and see if there's anything else that I want to add to that while we're doing that. I think probably jumping. Jumping, whether or not we're using a normal attack, and whether or not we're using an ability, and what ability we're using. So I think anim state jump is jumping anim state normal attack is attacking use ability. So, whether or not we're jumping, whether or not we're attacking, whether or not we're using an ability, and what ability we used. I think that's perfect for the update animation for now. Obviously, there's more things that we're going to have to add eventually. But for now, we are perfectly fine. Let's take a look at our net code here. Okay, so we're just waiting for Visual Studio to open now. Stupid flies. Alright, so here's our room. We need to add... We're going to also want to pop open the auth room helper because it tells us how to cast our message args. Oh, that's super easy. Okay. I forgot how much work I did to this. Alright. So we need to update this to add our two new events, which is public fight request movement 4, public const fight allow movement equals 5. So this is whether or not we're allowed to move. So now we'll grab this guy here. Alright, so now Void, maybe? It's not gonna allow Void either. Can I just do it with action like that? I can. Okay. Okay, so that's basically, are we allowed to move? Yes or no? And then the server will go, well, yes, you can, and then you can move. So there will be a imperceptible lag between whether or not you are going to be able to move and when you request the movement, but it'll be so small you'll honestly never notice it. Welcome, Bluntist. I appreciate you watching. I have to say this. Please do not let this discourage you. But I would not suggest working on an MMORPG as your first project. I would highly recommend against it. Just because of the amount of work and the amount of nuanced things that you just don't think about that actually go into MMOs. You have to have a lot of experience in it. However, how do you get experience? Well, you do that by trying. You do that by doing it. You do that by actually making one. So as much as I say I don't recommend it, I also really wish you luck, because you really do need to get your feet wet and actually try things until you understand how it works. So, yeah, for sure. What do you mean by interest management? So I can actually run you through that here pretty quickly. I actually have to go at 4 o'clock, but I'll run you through how I do that. Oops. Krita. Oh, he asked me that. I'm very sorry. I was actually just in the zone working here, but I am using a system called Calicius. In my opinion, it is the best. It is the best. It is the best networking management solution you can come across for a number of things. But it's called Calicius Server. It has Unity bindings, so. It has official Unity bindings, so you're good to use it on Unity. Eventually, when we switch Cadalion over to our custom server, I'll have to do a custom implementation of it, but that's not a big deal. Actually, our custom server will use C#, so we can easily, we can easily just port this code over, so it's not a huge deal. But yes, Calicius. So secondly, how am I handling interest management? I will actually show you. Okay, let me actually do this again because I actually really liked the look of that. It was easy on the eyes. Alright. So this is how 9 megabytes a second. That's a little high. What networking solution are you using? I'll show you how I do it, and you'll get a good idea. Okay, so you're using raw sockets. I would suggest against that for a number of reasons. Like if you're not interested in Calicius, then I would definitely use like LidGrid networking. Just simply because it handles a lot of things behind the scenes that you don't need to worry about that you'll run into later on. But like I said, if you're happy using it, feel free to do it. I just suggest against it. So this is how my interest management works. I'm gonna try and do this as best I can here. Is it? It's Control. No, it's Alt. This stupid thing. All right, so it's fine. If my grid's fucked up, I don't care. So the game world, currently everything is sent to everyone. Because I don't have this built in yet for this project. I've built them 100 times though. So basically your game world is broken up into these grid sections, right? And then these are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. And then this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and then J. Okay. So this should be I. A little bit easier to read there. All right. So your game world is broken up, and these are supposed to be even. Like I said, I'm really terrible at drawing grids. It's the best grid I could do on short notice here. But essentially, let's say that you're in A1. So if you're in the exact center of A1, then the server will only send you data about what's in cell A1, right? And A1 is a room. So the way Calicius works is you have several rooms. Let me kind of draw this out. So you can have several rooms in Calicius. So Calicius works this way. Is you will have a set of rooms that the player can join, and then anything in that room gets synced to everyone in that room. So the way I usually handle things like chat and things like that is world chat will be a room, and then everyone on that server will join that room, which means that you're getting chat data from everyone on the server. Then you have party chat, which is also a room, and that will spawn based on your party. So whatever your party ID number is, so your party number, will become party room, or it's backwards. All right, so room party number. And then so anybody in that room gets chat messages from the party chat. Next is guild chat. So when you join a guild, it will be the guild chat number is the room name, is the room ID, and then anybody in that will get guild chat. And you could be in several of these rooms at once. So if you're in a world, you're automatically in the world chat. If you're in a party, you're automatically in party chat and guild chat. So basically, you're always getting chat messages from those rooms that you're in. So you can be in several rooms at once. I did chat because it's easy to understand rooms that way. So now that you kind of understand how a room works, let's talk about how I do what you call interest management. I call it data management. It really doesn't matter. If we take a look at our grid again, we can see that we have all of these grid numbers. So the map that we're on will be the first number. So this will be 1, right? So this map 1, and then our grid number. So if we're in A1, so it will be 1A1. And then the other thing I do is also for realm management. So if you have so many people in realms, you can also be on realm 1. So this is realm 1, map 1 in area A1. So what'll happen is only people that are in that are in this very specific set of circumstances will get data from that area. And then what'll happen is, let's say that we move towards... Correct, exactly. So let's say that we move towards this corner. Right? Well then, what happens if we get somebody that's right next to you and they walk into B1? Right? Well then, they're just going to pop out of existence right near you. They're literally just going to pop out of existence, and it's going to look really weird, right? So you're going to be like, what the heck, right? So we don't want players to just pop out of existence right near us. We don't want that to happen. So what'll happen is, once you get within view distance of the next grid space, you will actually be in 2 rooms. So you'll be in room 1A1, and in 11B1, right? That way, that when somebody walks outside of your view distance, they'll technically be in C. And then, of course, in the corner, you'll actually technically be in 4 rooms, right? So you'll be in 11A1, 11B1, 11A2, and 11B2. So you will technically exist in all of these rooms. And that tends to work faster than trying to calculate the distance between people all the time. So as long as you keep those areas around, that, you'll be fine. So as long as you keep those areas smaller around the size of your view frustum, then you won't have to worry about too much data going back and forth between players. So let's talk about how I do it in terms of in terms of how much data we're transferring back and forth. Luckily, since I'm using the Cadalion system, I do not have to worry about that. And I'll show you why. If we look at our Cadalion schema, what it is basically you have different states in your rooms, and these states basically allow you to serialize things. So if we look at this is actually in kilobytes, or is it in bytes? I can't remember. What was their thing? I think this is actually in kilobytes. It could be in bytes. I think it's bytes, now that I'm thinking about it. So the way that Cadalion handles data is basically it works on a binary patching algorithm. So if we look at schema, when the room's state changes, the server will ask each client to send it a hash of their current schema, right? So it will hash every object under its schema and then send that back to the server. The server will then check the hashes to see what changed between the server state and each client state, at which point it only sends update data for the properties that have been changed. So if we look at the Cadalion thing, they talk about this right here. So based on Cadalion's unique binary patching algorithm, you can iterate state updates easily from the client side. So what that basically means is you'll see room.state.players on add, room.state.players on remove, room.players.state.on change. So basically it knows when a player has been added to the player array, when a player has been removed from the player array, and when the player has changed its state. And then you can check to see if the room has changed its state all together. So what happens is basically it sends little patches back and forth between the client and the server to detect what changed and what needs to be changed, and only that data is sent back and forth. So when we did our stress test, we had between 7 and 9 players, something like that. and we were running, I think it was three kilobytes, something like that, where we were all running around on the map. Yeah, so basically you probably should send actions. I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, it really depends on what you want. But I mean, I could stress test mine at some point here, because Calicius has built-in stress testing tools. Which basically just changes the state a bunch of times. So it has like this load test system. And so I don't have it set up, but it has like this load testing system. So you can test the number of clients in it. Oh, you're fine. I'm just trying to let you know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, no matter what you do. Okay, so I see what you're saying. All right. So you had all of your players in one area and not spread across the map. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Then that's fine. The 9 megabytes in that instance is pretty good. Okay. I thought you were saying that you had clients all spread out throughout your entire game world moving around at the same time, and it was at 9 megabytes. I'm like, whoa, that's really high for everybody moving around in the entire world. Like, that's pretty high. But no, in terms of one town, that's actually fairly small. So I definitely commend you on that. I'm just trying to think of how else I should explain this, or how else I should. Is that just moving? So that's not like, that's not doing any other actions, such as attacking, like doing little dances and what are those called? Emotes. Jumping also, yes. So here's something else you should do on your client side that we actually do. So let me show you, which one is this one? It's that's not it. Let me open up Unity here. Entity sync. Here we go. So basically, what you want to do is you want to have an update frequency. So that's basically how many times per second you're going to be sending your updates. So in this instance, it's every millisecond, right? And then after that, you want to check to make sure that your transform position is not equal to your last transform position. And then if that happens, then we send it. Otherwise, we don't. So that you're making sure that we're not sending position updates for players that don't need to be synced. Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I don't know, what your system looks like. So I'm just trying to make sure that you're, that we are covering our bases in that instance. I'm trying to think of what else that I can suggest for you. The other thing, by the way, is you also want to have a patch rate for your server, which essentially means that your server is only going to send out updates every so often, because you don't want your server sending out updates like just over and over and over again as fast as it can. You actually do want some interval in between it, because otherwise you're pegging out your CPU and not really getting anything out of it. Because the best way you can do it is look at your networking card and look at the spec of your networking card and see how many messages it can send in a millisecond. If it's lower, then your tick rate being high doesn't matter. So basically you're just using CPU cycles for messages that are going to end up getting queued anyway. So instead of doing that, then what you do is you run your update loop for the rest of the update loop, instead of just sending out message after message that are just getting queued and not actually sending as soon as they're sent, or as soon as they're requested. So make sure that you also understand what hardware you're running on, and that your server update rate, right now for mine it's set, but I'm going to have an environment variable here that basically says what my update rate. TCP is another major factor. I would suggest Lidgren, because Lidgren actually uses a UDP system, but it's called a reliable UDP system. I don't know if you've ever messed around with Lidgren before. Oh, that's V2, not V3. But Lidgren has all kinds of... did they mark it up here? Yes, they did. Okay. Receiving messages. So it has several ways that you can receive messages. And then, and this is the great thing about Lidgren, is that it uses UDP for everything, but it has basically different types. So you can send an unreliable message, which is basically, you would use those, you would basically use those for, I would use them for chat messages, to be entirely honest with you. Unreliable sequenced, then basically I would use this one for position updates. I would, yeah. I wouldn't use it for chat messages. Because it's considered a low priority. That's considered low priority, basically. With Calicius, I don't have to worry about that. Calicius will handle all of that for me. So if it looks at my state and my state is different, then I know that I've missed a UDP packet, and it will automatically resend that message. But I wouldn't worry about that, because it's considered... Yeah. And then you have, like, reliable order, or unordered, reliable sequenced, and reliable ordered. Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you look at this system, it's got like all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do with it. Like I said, I would use this for chat messages. I mean, you can use unreliable sequenced if you want, or reliable unordered, reliable sequenced. Reliable ordered for chat messages. You could do that if you wanted. I would suggest against it, because you have higher priority you have higher priority packets, right? That which is like your movement, attacking, death, stuff like that. You don't want those messages getting screwed up. So when you're sending health back and forth, I would use reliable sequenced, because if you send a packet and then another packet gets to the client, which is like a health update that is further along down the road, right? Then you want to discard the ones before it. So yeah, I mean, if you're clever with these, you can get the amount of data being sent back and forth between your clients very, very low. So if you're very, very clever on how to do that kind of stuff, like this system is really nice. But yeah, I would use unreliable sequenced for your positional updates, and then just lerp between them. Correct. But yeah, so, you know, I would definitely look into this for sure. I mean, it's honestly because a lot of people just get started and then get lost, to be entirely honest with you. I've designed many 3D MMOs, both on my own and also like commercially as well. Like I've helped out actual commercial projects and stuff, because I've been a like I said, as someone who has done this before and considers themselves somewhat of a mentor, I have to tell you, an MMO is not a great first project, no matter what level of programming skill you have. As a fellow person making a game, I'm like, hey, go for it. I mean, even if you fail, right, then you're still learning, right? You're still, you know, even if you have to, even if you have to do all kinds of stuff that, yeah, I mean, like I said, even if you fail at what you're doing, then you've learned how not to do it, right? You've learned, like, as long as you're able to take a look at something and go, oh man, like this is, this is not quite what I wanted. As long as you can identify that is a problem area, then you know that that's something that you need to fix. Like this, obviously this does not work the way that I want it to. This does not work the way that it should. So now we need to change it and fix it. So, definitely that's something that you should be looking at. Here's some stats for Ligrin, by the way. You can mess around with all kinds of stuff. You can simulate, so lag simulation. This is really cool. You can actually simulate lost packets and simulated duplicates, simulated latency, simulated random latency. Like, it's a really neat system. So it actually allows you to do that. Because there's a lot that you can learn. There's a lot that you can learn from doing a single player version of an RPG that so basically you're learning you're learning how to do things like hit detection. You need to figure out how to do things like where you're going to handle your hit detection. For Cadalion, we're using hit validation, which is basically when one player says, "Oh, I hit the other player," then the server then your client will also say, "I've been hit," right? And if both of those things line up, then the server knows that that was a valid hit. If only one client says, "I've been hit," then the server will take a look at the current state that the server holds, and will say, was the character moving in the correct direction? Was one character facing the correct direction? So basically, you can do stuff like that. And that's a good place to start. I mean, I think you're definitely starting small enough that you'll be okay. But like I said, there's so many things to consider. Animation syncing. So you have things like animation syncing. You have things like player update syncing, player rotation syncing. Making sure that the state is correct across all your clients. There's a lot of things to consider with an MMORPG that normal people really just don't think about, and that's really kind of the issue, and why I say, and why I say like an MMO is not a great first project. But like I said, at the same time, do you. Like, if that's what makes you happy, if that's what helps you learn, if that's what you're trying to do, then do it. But at the same time, I do still have to say, not a great project. At least to start with. I mean, like I said, because many people try and fail, because they just think about what they want. Like, they don't think about what you actually need to do. Like, so, I'm sure you've stress tested, but you always need to, it's that too. But then the other thing that you have to realize is, just because you've stress tested, that does not mean that is exactly what it's always going to be. You may end up actually being higher than that, because you may have somebody trying to DDoS your server. You may have, something like that. So you may want to also see what the upper limit of your server actually is. Because you may have somebody trying to spam messages at your server, or it has everything to do with an MMO, because network syncing is the whole point of an MMORPG, right? If it's not networked, then I mean, if we're entirely honest here, an MMO is just massively multiplayer online, right? If you're talking about, because FPSs and stuff like that, like, they're basically just a mini MMO. It's really all it is. It's just an MMO at a much smaller scale. So, I mean, really, it is an MMO in most cases. Either way, though, my wife is yelling at me. I gotta go, guys. I really do appreciate you watching. No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you talking. I mean, it's definitely interesting to kind of see your, to see what what you're thinking about and stuff like that. And and kind of, you know, what you're doing and stuff like that. And you know, it's a healthy conversation, basically. So no, I appreciate you know, I appreciate you coming in and hanging out. But either way, like I said, my wife is yelling at me. I'll still do that. I'll still do that, James. Just it's gonna end up not being on stream just because I haven't had a chance to get to that yet. But my wife is yelling at me, so I have to go help her. But I'll be back, guys. I don't know if I'm gonna stream during the week, but I'll probably be back at it on the weekends. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next stream. Peace.